Hi everyone. I think this is working. We'll see. I'm still a little unsure about getting these things going. Yep, says we are. So we're good. That's the way it goes. Welcome to the 10th Tango with Time teaching video, which is interesting because I've said I'm never going to teach time or claim to teach time. So I guess this is a 10th share on how you can change your relationship with time. We'll begin as we always do with the breath. Going in, settle into your chair, or however you are, as comfortable as you can. We're going to do 3, imagining your breath going all throughout your body. In and up to the top of your head and out to your fingertips and down to your toes and out. So relaxing into that place of ease. And in to your fingertips and your brain and your heart. And one more without my talking. Thank you. In our last video, I talked about the breath and I gave you some other options if you don't like that one. And the importance of it and how that relaxes us and centers us and reduces stress and also brings us into the now, which is where all the magic around time happens. But in the last month, I've been doing some mini workshops on part of our related Spirit Moxie page, but a more general thing about the importance of presence, which is sort of the key, I think, to changing our relationship with time and how we are. And in it, I've talked about the breath. It's just so central. And, excuse me, gratitude and different focus places that brings you into the now, and the general thing around having purpose and all this. But the underlining piece, the hook I've been inviting people into is getting things done. And what I've realized that since my relationship with time has changed, and I've been trying to help teach you with this, or guide you with this, or share with this, is that I really have stopped doing things. And how the heck does that work? And, what about calendars and schedules and obligations and projects and work assignments? And where does all this fit in with this fluid time piece? So I think I'd like to start with stories. And one of the stories is, as most of you know, or some of you know, I published a book, and as a good person, I don't have a copyright. Oh, I do. Hold on a minute. I'll be right back. That was as exciting as everything, wasn't it? As some of you know, we published this, came out in December. It partly explains, it doesn't talk about time at all, and it partly just explains Spirit Moxie, which is another page that I manage. And but it happened. And so how do you publish a book without doing? So I'd like to share a little bit about that. It's about one of the things that happens is you dream a little bit and you plan and you start being positive. But it's not this oh, I've got to do this kind of place. It's like going back to the very, very basics of dealing with time is, so what am I supposed to be doing right now? Like right now, I'm supposed to be talking to you. And right now, you're supposed to be watching it because you are. It's really, truly that simple. The last time I did a Facebook Live, I shared that I'd been promising one and promising one, and I said I was going to do it the next day or something. And it happened when it happened. At one point, that was what I was supposed to be doing, and that's exactly how it showed up. The book was interesting because it was, much more complicated. I've worked for a publisher, and so I figured I could self-publish this thing. And pieces were wrong about it, and I, you know, used it as an excuse to go have drinks with some of my best friends just to get their feedback. And my editor wouldn't edit it. Well, she would have, but she thought she couldn't, and so someone else did. I mean, it was sort of like that. And I was actually, it sounds as fabulous as anything. I'd finally gotten it. It had gone through other people's schedules and other people's arrangements, and it had looked really, really gorgeous. They did a fabulous job on looking on the inside. And I'd sent it off to the people that were printing and distributing it, and gotten back the proofs. And as those anybody that's written anything, the whole proofing your own stuff thing and going through this, and I'd found inconsistencies from the final edit, but I was all just doing this when it showed up to do. And one of the things that happened was, as I was in Thailand, as some of you know, and I also got there without doing. And in fact, all my doings sort of fell in. It was really pretty amazing. Whenever I tried to do anything deliberate or had this great plan, something else happened. So I was going to go to the northern part of Thailand because I'd never been there. And got to the train station and there weren't any seats, so I got there on a plane, which is a whole other story. But I still, for some reason, ended up with 2 return tickets from Chiang Mai to Bangkok. So when I got back from this trip that didn't work, although it was a fabulous trip, I booked another flight. Booked the train trip rather than waiting to the last minute. And I found myself on this train with a brand new proof of this book on my computer. And so I used it. So I found myself with this perfect situation of just sort of found myself reading it on the train, found a fairly egregious error, and thought I had to pay to correct it, which wasn't true, but I didn't know that. So it was sort of like that. It was those kinds of pieces of actually doing what was in front of me that ended up with a book where we did a launch party on the day of the party because the person whose house it was worked on, all because in the moment I just was doing what was in front of me to do. So what are some tricks to making that happen? Some of you love lists. I pretty much only do them for major events. But if you love lists, make a list. In the last video, I talk about a list and tell you to put it aside, but I don't say any more about it. But I'd like you to be deliberate about that. Because what you're doing is seating sort of in the now. That's the importance. As some of you know, as all of you know, we're sort of in a lockdown situation. And I had 2 plane tickets scheduled for January and February, maybe, something like that. Both of which got canceled because of the COVID pieces. I didn't lose any money, I didn't do anything, and I survived just fine. So I had every intention of doing this, and this is obvious, but this is what always happens when you schedule something. What is important is the act of scheduling it. And then what happens at that moment is what happened. I committed to doing this Facebook Live a couple places yesterday and posted something a little while ago saying it was going to be at noon. I have no idea when this started. Close to noon? It's that sort of in the moment kind of thing. So I'm not, at this moment, what I'm doing is talking, and that's all I'm doing, but it's not a deliberate doing kind of place. So it's, I got this from Byron Katie, who was asked, like, well, how can you schedule events when you're just sort of like not planning and living there? I was just, well, you schedule it. I mean, because that's the act of scheduling. And as I said, you don't know until it happens if it happens, and there's no place with that. So schedule what you need to, make the lists, and try not to just get so focused on them that you start planning ahead so your whole conversation becomes on what's going to happen rather than what is happening. What is happening is making the list, it's not doing the things. This is complicated, and it's a whole other way of approaching things. When I'm dealing with people with other schedules, I have a sort of an internal timing clock to deal with the external world right now, and if I really want to turn that off, I'll set a timer on my watch so it'll buzz my wrist, so that 15 minutes later I'll show up wherever I'm supposed to show up. It'll be a reminder because it frees me. Then that sounds like terribly manipulative time, but you know what? If I don't do it, it's fine. I'll come dashing in and think that, Kat, I've only got 2 more minutes and I still need to get some coffee and run to the bathroom and refill my water and blah, 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 blah. And I come back. I do all those things. And I come back and it's still, another 20 seconds. It's I said, making time your friend, but you can put the structure on it. So dream. It's called part of what we're called into doing is just delighting in the magic and possibility in the world. And yes, even now there's magic and possibility in the world. As part of this, one of the plans I've been doing is developing a course that is technically more related to Spirit Moxie, but it's about how you get to this place of just being in presence. And while I'm saying I'm not teaching about time, I lie, because there's no way to do that without embracing a new relationship with time. So in the comments underneath this thing, I'll put the chat. Ideally, it'll start August 6th. Again, who knows? But it will, I'm right this second, I feel committed to it happening. And I'm excited about it because we really are going to start looking at this whole things happening without doing place to see how it feeds our own energy and productivity. All kinds of possibilities. So thank you for listening. I hope this was a little bit linear. As some of you know, that's one of my big challenges. Love you all. Love that you're committed to being who you are in the world and are a little bit curious about how that's turning out. Yeah, love you. One more breath together. Thank you. All together now. Thanks.